love your dance moves.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I never thought of myself as a dancer, but I started doing it on stage once because I was nervous or something, and then I just haven't been able to stop.
You've got your own style. You remind me a little bit of Peter Garrett. He has his own style. And everyone goes, what the hell's wrong with him? It looks like he's been electrocuted.
Yeah. I mean, you know, as long as you're like confident with whatever you're doing, then people will go, oh yeah, that's what that is.
Nothing can touch my boy.
Marlon Williams, once described as having the face of a choir boy and the shoes of an Italian film star. He's Māori, proudly so, and his unique musical style is making waves both here in Aotearoa and overseas.
He don't suffer my mistakes, I love him.
Were you assuming a character for that particular song? Or was that a love song?
It's I don't know what that song is. It's sort of a love song to older brothers, really, that song. You know, I'm an only child, but I've had so many like big brother figures in my life. I've always really liked that dynamic, you know, of just being able to follow a leader.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a follower.
Do you assume a character when you're writing and performing?
Yeah, I definitely, at least sort of subconsciously, I'm playing a role whenever I'm singing a song. You know, there's the obvious narrative ballads that I've sometimes written, like, you know, about historical characters or whatever, you know, like writing about Te Rauparaha and things like that, where it's clearly you're sort of addressing another character.
Te Rauparaha had the greenest of eyes.
All songwriting is sort of posturing in a way, just sort of acting, I guess.
His first album attracted rave reviews.
Obviously, you know, when it's a positive review, when you're starting out, it's like it just gives you the confidence to back yourself for the next one.
There's always a little bit of a nervy moment for the next one. If the first one is getting a great review, it's kind of like, ooh.
Marlon describes his second album as a breakup album.
It had its own sort of self-propelling thing going on.
Yeah.
Where the first record was me just sort of sniffing around.
Having a tutu.
Yeah, exactly. It's the one that I've just done that had that sort of the block where I had to like push through and sort of steel myself and find a way.
Named after American actor Marlon Brando, Marlon's mother Jenny is Kai Tahu from Arowhenua, and his father David is from Ngāi Tai ki Tōrere.
How much te reo was in your life when you were growing up?
Well, I went to Kohanga and then moved to Littleton from New Brighton, so it sort of disappeared for a while. Although Mum and I would go down to the Kai Tahu hui ato every year and cram learn all the waiato and like, so there was that element. But it wasn't until sort of the last years of high school that I sort of got back into it somewhat. But you know, now I'm sort of humbly back at the beginning again and trying to learn again. So.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a work in progress for all of us that are second language learners.
Totally, yeah. So I'm just sort of being kind to myself and not trying to rush things, I guess.
From singing He Wawata at Whakaata Māori to Mata Kōhore at Alexandra Palace in London. Marlon's most recent performance saw him join Lorde on stage during her European tour.
was just such a beautiful thing to be able to perform that song to a whole bunch of English people, and in Alexandra Palace, this like very ornate sort of classically British place. But yeah, that was just a special moment.
How did your parents shape your musical development?
Mum's a painter, and she'd just be painting away in the lounge on a big canvas or whatever up on the wall, and she'd always be blasting sort of classical music or something like that, like beautiful church music. And then Dad's, he's just always singing. He's grew up in Gisborne and played in punk bands in Gisborne.
Excuse me, sorry, did you say punk bands in Gisborne?
Yeah, he had a hard time, I think, for it. He's the only Māori with a pink mohawk in Gizzy.
Jeepers, far out. I better put the shout out to him, I bet they know him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Frankie Teardrop. We'd sing together when we were growing up. We'd write songs. He taught me a few chords on the guitar. His line's always been, like, you can, lyrics matter, but you can sing a grocery list, and if the melody works, then it'll beautify the words,
That's interesting, eh? I always remember Dal Bainey saying to me, write songs they can play on the guitar.
Simplicity, accessibility.
Every Māori will play it at a party.
Yeah, that's a truism.
Marlon's guitar playing picked up while at Christchurch Boys High. Marlon was a member of the choir of the Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament. After he left school, Marlon had aspirations as an opera singer and studied under Dame Malvina Major. But the lure of playing in pubs and bars proved too seductive. He met musician Delaney Davidson on the pub circuit.
Let me hang a beer or wine.
Did you like that?
Loved it. It's a very sort of cowboy way of touring. We'd sort of go and play a show and then like count up the cash at the end of the night in the hotel room. That feeling?
Yeah.
Where you just feel like Bonnie and Clyde or something.
If you can survive those pubs where someone might yell out, play Stairway to Heaven.
Oh yeah, it's massively stealing, for everything else that comes from it. You sort of get such a thick skin.
Baby, I've been watching you. I've been watching everything you do.
My father and his brothers, they loved that style of singing. In their marae, they would sing these songs very much in that kind of crooning style. How did you develop into that yourself?
Well, Elvis was a huge influence as a kid.
We're caught in a trap. I can't walk out.
And then, of course, I think there's something about being Māori that just, you start warbling. Then I went to uni and tried to be an opera singer for a year, and then, so there's that kind of vibrato going on, and then there's the Elvis vibrato, and then there's the whatever the Māori vibrato is.
The massive woody going on.
The woody.
What is it about country music as a genre that attracts you?
I think it's the simplicity. I mean, when I first started writing, that was when I was really getting into, like, through Graham Parsons and people like that.
I'm going away, don't you wanna go?
Got into Hank Williams. A lot of old bluegrass, like Bill Monroe and things like that. And it's 3 chords. It's very, like, methodically laid out. Doesn't go too many strange places. And I just thought, just the tangi of it, it's so emotive, but also it's also reserved at the same time. And I really enjoyed that dichotomy between laying out heavy feelings, but within a sort of very strict framework.
And do you start some songs and then labour on it and you think, oh, stink song, I'll get rid of that?
Oh, all the time, yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, my books are just full of like 2 lines and then like a big scribble over it, or like rip it out and it's in the bin.
What's a New Zealand song you wished you'd written?
I remember the first one that I was like, oh, I wish I'd written that was Tears by the Crocodiles.
What a great song that was.
It kicks ass. Lately, I've just been, as I was talking about before, I've just been listening to Hitting in Melbourne and all of these simple little just gems of 1.5 minute songs, and it's like they're so perfect because they're so in and out,
Yeah.
you know, but they're sort of untouchable in a way.
Who are the sort of iconic performers that you've met and you've thought, oh, well, this is just so cool?
One that really stood out for me was meeting Yo-Yo Ma, the cello player, a few years ago. You know, having sort of grown up in that classical world, just meeting him was you know, this is the guy who, at the age of 6, performed at John F. Kennedy's inauguration, and you know, like he's got such a massive part of musical history of the 20th century, and is just so human and warm. It's just, I don't know, it can just move mountains for you emotionally.
Marlon has appeared in a number of movies.
He's a very good actor. I know he's acted a lot, but we had a lot of fun. In fact, there was a much longer scene in there, and Marlon, I'm sorry, I tried to keep it as much as I could, but we had a great scene between Jackson and him on the stage. He was wonderful.
Can I just ask, is Bradley Cooper as handsome in real life as he is on screen?
I'm a straight man, but he's like, yeah, I just was like the whole time I was just going,
And I don't like that look.
no, neither do I. And it was just to see, because, you know, like, I remember doing my first acting job and being like, there's too many cooks in this kitchen. Yeah. Like, when you're making an album, it's you and the producer and maybe some musicians, and you just, like, you're the boss and you just go for it. When there's 150 people on set, it's like, how do you keep your creative control? Obviously, you know, you do it by committee and that, but to see Bradley just take all those roles and own them all at the same time. So he came into the studio while I was recording Pretty Woman, and he came in and he's like, because there's like the preamble where he's, you know, pretty woman, and he comes in and he's like, just make it really light, like, pretty woman. And he just like nailed it. I was like, I don't know if I can do it that softly and that beautifully.
Pretty woman, walking down the street. Pretty woman.
Was he a singer from way back?
I don't know what sort of...
Was he acting and can sing?
He's just a crazy guy who can do it all. But I just was like, man, how dare you come in here?
I've been labouring all this time.
Yeah, this is my zone.
Pretty woman, won't you pardon me? Pretty woman, I couldn't help but see. Pretty woman, that you look lovely as can be.
When singer Marlon Williams was 21, he was part of a vibrant music scene in and around Ōtautahi.
I was sitting at Littleton Coffee Company, the cafe there, with Gladys Davidson, and we were in the process of talking about, when our first meeting about making our first album together. And then the windows blew out, the street sank, and
Really?
Yeah, and we just ran out onto the street with everyone else in the coffee shop. And it was just, just absolute chaos from there on out, and just shifted everyone's sort of way of thinking for the rest of time.
It was the 22nd of February 2011, lunchtime. The Christchurch earthquake killed 185 people and injured several thousand.
When you're in that moment, as so many people were, it must have been hugely confusing.
Yeah, well, just, you know, you sort of, one thing you grow up with is at least you can always trust the ground you walk on, you know? And to have that shaken, you know, to have your relationship with Papatūānuku shift like that was just harrowing, you know? And it's something you can't go back from that, you know? It's like there's something fundamental about this world that is unstable, you know? And that, so it's a real lesson there.
The art of hurrah, it ebbs and it flows.
Do you need to have traumatic experiences to drive your songwriting?
I don't think so. I think you need to be empathetic. You need to be able to understand what causes people pain, you know, and what causes them joy. I think, you know, they often talk about, especially in country music, you know, it's like you've got to have lived a life to be able to sing these songs. Like, Hank Williams died when he was 29. He's younger than I was when he died. And of course he lived a hard life, but you know, you can be young and be open, and it's the same thing. I don't think it's an age thing or an experience thing, it's just an openness thing, I reckon.
Is it confronting to have to write songs about love and relationships and then put it out there? I mean, it's quite personal.
I try not to think about it too much, because it's like, well, that's quite a lot to, you know, but there's that, you rely on the fact that no one's really thinking about you, they're thinking about themselves when they listen to those songs, and it's the universality of it, isn't it? It's like that is going to bring their own baggage to it, and it's so just let it be an open vessel for them to fill up with their own problems.
Nobody gets what they want anymore.
In 2018, Marlon won the coveted Silver Scroll with his song Nobody Gets What They Want Anymore.
And we all as songwriters know that it's definitely not a competition, except for the Silver Scroll, which I've won here. It's good.
It's likely Marlon Williams will keep accepting awards and keep busting out his trademark dance moves.
How come you put your hands in your pockets and everybody else in the video doesn't have their hands in their pockets?
Oh,
Were
that's
you
a good
making
question.
a very macho statement there?
I don't know, I just sort of look cool. I was like, you guys do that and I'm going to look better.
It worked. It was quite camp, fabulously so. So you must have had some interesting feedback for that?
Yeah. It's, you know, I got the first comment saying something about appropriating gay culture. It's like, that's just how I move. Like, I'm just tutuing about and just, you know, having fun and not being afraid of moving in the way I naturally want to move. And I don't feel the pressure to represent some sort of idea of masculinity anymore. I just enjoying the fluidity of it and the freedom.
And he'll keep on writing songs that people can play on their guitar.
He's all to me and more. Nothing can touch my boy. He's all I'm living for. Nothing can touch my boy. He don't hold back for my sake. He don't suffer my mistakes. I love him. He's why I'm what I am. Yeah. Nothing can touch my boy. He's why I'm what I am. Yeah. Nothing can touch my boy. And he leads me with a ready hand. Nothing can touch my boy. He would never leave me. But if he did, this sorry world would start to grieve me. Oh, he walks with the R2R. Oh, nothing can touch my boy.
Fun.
It's unique.
Thanks for singing that with me.